Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today for this presentation on Turnitin. We're going to talk today about what it is, how to use it, and then what are some of the available features. So first and foremost, what is Turnitin? Turnitin is an online plagiarism detection tool. This is very similar for those of you who taught in Blackboard. We used SafeAssign. This is a very, very similar tool. It operates slightly differently, but it integrates right into Brightspace. Students can submit their assignments and Turnitin will compare their assignments to an online database, looking for similarities in published and in other student work. And then from there, it will generate a similarity report that instructors can access right from the assignments in Brightspace. The assignments can be submitted in a Word or PDF. Those tend to be the most common ones, but Turnitin is also able to accept PowerPoint presentations. It can do Excel files. It flattens them into a PDF. So that may strip out, for example, if it's a PowerPoint presentation, speaker notes won't be transferred into the PDF. So it's just something to be aware of. It's also important to know Turnitin only works on assignments. It's not integrated to work with discussion boards, and it's not integrated to work with the quiz features. So it's just important to know there. It's one tool, and this is what we've got. So the first thing that we need to talk about is how do you enable Turnitin? The IDS team, we go through and we set these up in the templates for the courses. We associate Turnitin with the appropriate assignments, but instructors need to re-enable it in their course sections at the start of each term. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I have set up a course in my sandbox. And I copied some assignments from another class, and I get this message. If I go to the assignments tab, I get this message that says there are 4 assignments that were Turnitin enabled in the previous course offering. I'm going to click re-enable. It's going to give me this scary message. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. And that's it. It's done. So Turnitin is now turned on for those 4 assignments. One of the things we have run into is that sometimes instructors didn't know that they needed to do that, and so they dismissed that message. Not a big deal. Few more steps, but we can enable Turnitin at the assignment level. We do have, the IDS team does have instructions on how to do this. And you are always encouraged, if you run into a problem, use the contact IDS button, reach out to us. We're happy to walk you through this process, but I'm going to do it with one additional assignment that wasn't copied in here. So I'm going to activate Turnitin. I know that an assignment has Turnitin because it's got this little icon with a paper and a set of binoculars. That's the icon that tells me that Turnitin is connected to this assignment. So I'm going to select the assignment. I'm going to edit the assignment. And in the evaluation and feedback panel, it says that Turnitin is enabled, but I need to do that one more step. I'm going to do my down arrow, manage Turnitin. I need to make sure that this enable originality check has been checked, and it's done.
So I think the emphasis can be placed on following those directions, and they really, if you want to avoid going into the assignment itself and checking off all the boxes, all you have to do is just click on re-enable. And if you're doing that in your course, then you're golden. And if you haven't done it yet, then this is how you do it. It's really easy, as Amy just showed. 2 clicks, 1 to re-enable, 1 to confirm that you really mean it, because you do mean it, and it's okay to do it. And then you're done. And that's all we're really instructing you to do about this. There's no more setup needed for this.
Yeah, that's it. And if you run into issues, reach out to us. We're happy to help. So let's talk about what Turnitin gets you. So you will see something that Turnitin calls the similarity report. I have a little screenshot here of what it looks like in the grade center. You see a little, almost a bar graph showing this is the percentage of similarity. If I click on it, it will pop it up and it will tell me these are the sources. This sentence looks like it came from such and such a source. Okay. So in my course, here's what it looks like. And then when I click on one of these, this is my similarity report. It's telling me that this information here came from a specific source on the internet. Okay. One of the things to be aware of is that this is a tool. It's not perfect. It's not a replacement for faculty judgment. There are certain types of assignments that can be really trickier than others. Assignments where students are filling in a template, for example. So this assignment is a worksheet that I created. The text that they're highlighting as being plagiarism is my worksheet text. The student answers show up on the next page and are, for the most part, fine. There's no highlighted, plagiarized information on that part of it. So it's just important to know that, and to, particularly if a student gets a high number or if something doesn't feel quite right, take a look at what are the sources and what has been highlighted over on the side. Turnitin does give you some options for excluding some sources, for making some changes. So I was able to use those features to say, oh no, that's my text. I can exclude that text. And that makes it so that it doesn't show up in the report. Those are some additional options. And I think Olga is actually going to talk about some of those more advanced settings. These are just options, not things that you have to do.
And so on the next slide, I start going through the advanced settings. They are currently set up to be default. And that means that all of our courses right now under assignments have these settings. So that means that currently all of our student submissions go into student standard paper repository. And the benefit of submitting papers to this standard paper repository is that student papers all go there, and then they can be compared against each other. It compares papers across all universities, or all institutions rather. And the other option that we have is no repository. So those are the only ones that we get. Files, as Amy just described, so they're the standard ones that Brightspace takes, but it also says that you can enable accept any format. I think it's still limited to what Brightspace allows for submission. No repository at all. That means that our students' papers will not be stored in the Turnitin standard place, and they will not be checked against other institutions. So that's what's happening with that. So the next setting, and the reason why we're bringing this up in the first place is that so that when you are aware of the options that there are, and as you are evaluating students, you may notice that there might be a better fit for a particular type of assignment that you are grading. And in that case, we need to have a little bit more conversation and make those adjustments for future so that we can really capture what's most important. So again, these are the default settings. They go, as Amy mentioned, they go on the websites and search for similarities. They search other publications such as journals and periodicals, as well as previously submitted works. Again, in some cases, it may be beneficial to turn this off, but right now they're all checked for us. So on the next slide, again, this is where we can work further to see if a better setting can be appropriate. For example, we can, by default, once the student submits their paper, they get an instant read on their similarity report. So it's generated right away. But what if you want students to maybe practice a little bit, submit once, submit twice, and see if they can improve on that? So for that, we may need to change the setting because and then allow more submissions. And every time they submit, they will be getting a different similarity report. Then the other settings, this is something that, again, Amy illustrated to an extent. So for instance, if you want to exclude quoted materials, that there is an option for that. For example, you're doing a lit review and there is a greater chance that you will have larger quotes. So you can take care of that. Or if you have small sources, for instance, you can specify the percent of the, or rather a set word count as percentage of the total submission. And in that case, those will be removed from a similarity report as well. So there are some, these are really small dials that we can turn and see if there is a better match. So we're not spending too much time worrying about things that don't really matter. And finally, so we can talk about templates. As Amy just showed, some of her submissions, some of the assignment came from a template. And if that's the case, if you want students to comment on certain things or fill out a predefined template, then it may make sense to upload that template as part of the this Turnitin setting, and then that whole template will be excluded from similarity reports.
Whereas in the past, Olga, we would have said, oh, this is an assignment, we're not even going to turn Safe Assign or Turnitin on for this particular assignment because it's going to cause confusion with the template. Here we have an option that maybe we can be a little bit more precise.
Correct, indeed. That previously we just would exclude them from this check.
Yeah.
Okay. And on the next slide, I just list a few options or criteria for the template, and that it has to be text, it cannot be an image. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. And so then we will share this presentation with you as well, so you can click on the links that are provided. So on the next slide, I included the link to the source, and that comes directly from Turnitin. And then finally, just a plug for faculty resources. So we have a special dedicated place for Turnitin under faculty resources in that Brightspace tutorials. We have the Brightspace frequently asked questions, as well as Turnitin as a special page. So for the Brightspace frequently asked questions, we invite everybody, if you look at that and there's something that is not addressing your need, please submit a question. There's a form that's linked at the very bottom. It's on the next slide, please. That's linked on the very bottom of that page. And if you click on it, that you can fill out the form and we get the question right away. So this is the page, and if you scroll down to the bottom, that would invite you to do so. And we get back to you if you ask a question. It doesn't have to be about Turnitin, but absolutely can be, and get back to you with an answer as soon as we can. And so I believe that should do it for us. We have questions. We have time for questions.
Question: when you showed earlier about the message that comes up on the board about enable Turnitin, if that message does not come up, are we then to go through those steps that you showed us to you know, if the icon with the binoculars isn't there and the message doesn't come up, then we go into those advanced settings and click that box.
If the icon with the binoculars is not there and you think it should be, reach out to us and we can
Okay.
double check and make sure that it's set up.
Okay. Cool.
It might be, for example, bringing things over from Blackboard to Brightspace. We may have missed some assignments that were supposed to have it. And so that we may have missed some. It might be that an assignment has changed over time and now is a better fit for having this, whereas in the past it hadn't been. So I would say if you don't see that message, if you don't see the binoculars and you think they should be there, I would contact IDS and ask us.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Good enough. Thanks.
Because we get to look at the old versions of the course too and say, oh, yep, it was supposed to be there. Something happened.
Well, thank you very much for your question, for attending.